Hey friends, buckle up for a new episode of Soul Dive. You can join Christina King and myself, Chris McCann. If the time's come for you to begin or even accelerate your inner exploration, the show might be for you. Each week, we explore the meaning of life, discover what our purpose is, or just exploring how to be happy. Soul Dive has got you covered. So join us and our guests, of course, and listen to insightful stories about where they've been and perhaps get help navigating your own path. Together, we will soul dive into the deep end of consciousness.
Hey, Chris.
Hi, Christina. Welcome back for another soul dive.
Yes, I'm so excited. Once again, we have an incredible guest from not our country. It's very exciting. We have Coco from Australia.
Yes. Thanks for being here, Coco from Australia.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to hearing this soul dive.
Well, it's going to be your soul. So
yes,
so
absolutely.
We're already in. And I will say that Coco, I did not know anything about Coco. I didn't even know if she was a girl or a boy until she showed up. So Chris already knows, obviously, because he's the one that got her to come. So, Chris, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I want you to start.
Okay. So I always get an opening scene, and immediately when I open your records, I saw weather, like you being in the middle of all this weather. And have you ever been to Hawaii before, Coco?
Yeah.
Have you been to Oahu, the Waimea Bay?
No.
It's almost like, I don't know, like Bondi, you know, that shape, that crescent shape. So I see this crescent-shaped beach, right? But I see these billowy storm clouds, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's a storm. It's just very cloudy, and they're very saturated with moisture. And then I see the ocean is almost like an dark indigo blue water. It's almost unnatural, and it's just so beautiful. And in the midst of that, I see you. Almost like in between these worlds, almost, where it's like wind and water or something. There's nothing storm-like about the situation. So it doesn't feel like chaos or anything like that. It just feels different. So that's what I got off the bat. Chris?
So Coco and I met on Instagram, and I didn't follow her or actually peep out anything until this morning. And I was like, oh, I should probably do this because we're messaging and without looking. So I have a little bit of context, but I try to stay away. But when I went into my state, what I saw immediately was you outdoors, green trees, children smiling, very energetic and like caring. The children were looking up to you in a way that they really connect with you. And they were not your children. They were other people's children. And it felt a little bit like a teacher, but I don't know that you're a teacher per se. It was really meant for me to understand that at that level, from an energetic perspective, that it felt really appropriate that when you're with children, it brings out some of the best aspects of you, and one that they can relate to you, but it's almost as if you feed off of that energy and really connecting, and allows for you to be very playful. Like playful is just part of your innate nature. And sometimes it's hard to get grown-ups or adults to meet at this level of being outside of their mind and really into their feelings. And so, one, it was a great little opening segment for me because it showed me in your element, and it looks like it resonates with you. But where it doesn't really matter if they're children or adults, but when you get people out of their head and into their bodies and doing very like movement-based type of work and playful exercises, that brings out the best in you and allows for you to bring out the best of them.
So back to me, if you don't mind, before you chime in, Coco. I dug into this scene a little bit more, and I'm feeling this huge indigenous vibe about it. And I'm feeling islander kind of vibe about it. I'm feeling as if, is this a past life?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that? Yeah.
Oh, I saw it on the front end.
It's definitely home of your soul. That's for sure. It's this movement of water and air. It's this theme. And there's something about movement that it really resonates with your soul. Movement elements, but also moving your body within it at the same time. But I definitely feel it's Pacific Islander kind of vibe. So I don't know if you even have any ancestral DNA, but I'm pretty sure you have spiritual DNA from this kind of area. And I'm getting more than one life for sure. So Coco, with all of that said by both of us, do you have any questions or something you want to get off your chest, or is there a direction that you want to go?
In one brief little segment. So when I was just going in, like beforehand, and I saw like a lot of red, green, and yellow, and you as a very brown person, and it was female energy, and that when what I saw. Right. So it's nice, Christina, that there was like that, a little bit of that triangulation, and we had at least exposure to a more indigenous aspect of your self. Okay. No.
So where would you like to take this today?
Wow. So I definitely feel like you felt my soul and seen what I believe to be my purpose and why I'm here. Which is definitely to bring movement, to bring more joy to this world through allowing people to connect to their childlike spirit. And it was interesting, Christina, that you saw the like dark clouds and me sort of in the indigo ocean, which is, for me, what I took from it was there's a lot of darkness, as we all know what's going on in the world right now. And I've always kind of felt myself, my thing is like calm amongst the chaos. How do we find joy amongst the like tough things that are going on in the world? So I do that a lot in the corporate space. But more recently, I've felt this move to move more into giving intuitive wisdom. So like, intuition being the purple chakra. It's like all about moving beyond just what makes sense, what's in the mind, and really going into these places, which is why I love the work that you guys do, because it doesn't need to make sense. It's just in this innate intuitive wisdom, which when we can access, it can really bring people out from the storms into the light. So yeah, pretty much everything really resonated. Especially the piece around the children. I do feel like I'm here to bring that out. I'm a teacher for people to find their play and to connect to that, the childlike curiosity and fun that we block ourselves from as adults. Or don't allow ourselves to feel that much joy or be in that much play because we're not told. We're told to become, stop being so childish. Is we're told when we're younger. So we grow out of that playful spirit.
As you started to speak, you said, I don't remember what you were talking about, but I got the sentence exactly. Oh, I know what you're talking about. How you kind of navigate in the storm. You kind of find the calm within it. And I got this sentence is that she sees no problems, just solutions. So it's kind of like almost like a mantra of life, maybe, where nothing's a problem. You just deal with it. That's just the way things went almost like that kind of like mindset. It's like, I'm not a victim at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I always say the problem isn't the problem. It's the attitude towards the problem.
Yeah. They loud and clear. I heard there's that in a different way, but same vibe there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Now, were you always this way? Did you come flying out of your mother's womb with that? Or
It's funny you say that. So I actually, when I was starting to write my bio, one of the things my mom remembers is when I came out of the womb, the first thing the doctor said is, she has a dimple. Like I must have come out smiling because you could see my dimple like right away. I definitely have been a joyous person my whole life. But I think more recently, it's been like beyond the joy is also being with pain. Like I used to have a real avoidance of not wanting to be with sadness and was always like, oh, is everything okay if someone was crying, as opposed to just allowing, joy and allowing pain, and they can both simultaneously be there. And so I've done a lot of like, as in you can be sad about something and then still feel grateful and have these two polarity, like, yeah, I guess just allowing all emotions is something I've worked on over the past few years. And I think that's actually allowed me to access more joy than I have my whole life.
So when you're, so I'm thinking of attachment, right? And how are we able to experience joy and experience sadness without avoiding any of it? Because this is life. It's the human condition. What's your approach in not being attached to any one particular state?
So my approach is to always acknowledge what's coming up. And I'm like a big fan of journaling and spending time just allowing whatever is there to just be. Because I notice, at least for myself, when I used to get sad about something, I'd go and talk to a friend and talk it out. And I was often looking for energy into my sadness or energy into my anger. Whereas when I'm actually with myself more and I allow my emotions to be, I put them on paper, there's no energy given from the paper. It just is. And it's like, no, that's how I feel. Now that's expressed, I can move forward, rather than just venting and venting and venting. It's like we create more problems sometimes. And then once I've sort of seen how I feel, then I have my practices, and such a big thing I do is movement, dance, and yoga, and just, again, allowing the body to move and feel whatever it needs to feel. And then I can move beyond it back into a natural state of joy, because I think that actually our true essence and nature is joy. We're just clouded by everything else.
Wonderful.
Through that. Amen.
Yes.
So I was getting information while you were speaking. I was still listening, but I was listening two ways. Just saying. So you said something about being corporate, but I didn't see you corporate at all. So I see you kind of moving away from that. Is that something you're trying to do?
Yeah, it's such a touchy subject, that one. Well done. Thank you. So
we're going there apparently. So not my fault. Talk to your guides, lady.
So there's definitely a lot of resistance in that, because my background has always been in the corporate space. I then wrote programs for corporate salespeople in how to help them to connect. And then when COVID happened and my whole business stopped, I was kind of forced to reassess. But I'm definitely, talk about attachment. I'm still very much attached to the idea of going into the corporate space. I know it's much more lucrative than I guess the personal development space, or at least on a per visit basis. And so there's been this like pool of, do I keep what I had, which was great, versus do I step into the unknown and be more in the personal development space, working with women, working with young people. And yeah, there's a definite, my guides are probably telling me move away, and yet I can't seem to let go.
Well, they're not saying move away. You will move away, whether you like it or not. So like, I'm getting that. Like, you're not going to be there forever. You're not going to be there as in the corporate world. I'm not talking about company or whatever. But as soon as you said, oh, well, I'm thinking about going back, I got the words fake safety. It's this false sense of security.
Yeah.
Because it's what was familiar, even though it wasn't really singing and playing all the notes that you really needed it to for yourself. But at the same time, it also checked off, quote, safety, in that you got a paycheck, you can pay your bills and keep your lights on. That would be great. But at the same time, it's also safety in that it kind of closes you in. I see corporate world as this like almost like a farm, like corral where the fence just goes around you and you just can't really see what's on the outside. You just kind of get like really involved into it. And then before you know it, 5 years is gone. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris knows.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, and the misperception that I've had is that I have to forsake one to do the other. It's like, how do I get rid of the corporate job? All I want to go do is this. And what's the story about the Buddha? And after being enlightened, he went back into the marketplace to go serve. Right. So there's always an opportunity to align on the corporate side for the highest good of those individuals and the folks that they're connected to, as well as satisfying, our own desires and the things that we feel called and pulled to do. And then really being able to hyper focus on, women, younger people, movement, etc. But it's all the marketplace.
Yeah.
I found that to be quite freeing when I've started to have that type of freedom. I was like, oh, I just wake up and serve and just flow, and just whatever shows up is what we work with.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think too that within what I've found in the past was I had to present a certain way in order to be relevant to the corporate space. Mm-hmm. And so that feeling, Christina, you were saying of like being in a fence, it's like, I've got to play this small. And whereas I actually think that now more of the world is waking up, that if we actually just show up authentically as we are, whether it's in the corporate space, working with women, working with movement, that whoever's ready for it will be the client. So I don't have to necessarily say it's this or that, but I do feel, as Christina said, eventually it won't be the corporate space, but for now it feels like all of it.
Well, I do want to say, I want to correct myself a little bit, because I'm being shown by your guides a lot of different opportunities that you could have, and several of them quite lucrative. You definitely have a one up. You understand the corporate world. And I'm seeing a possibility that you could be some sort of empathic coach, which is a new and upcoming kind of thing as the world wakes up. All of the light workers that do the things that we do, including you, everybody's developing, everybody's coming out of the cracks, because this is the time of Earth that this is a lot of why we've all been put here. I mean, essentially, you included, and you are no different. So what's happening is now that everybody's been home, they're showing me everybody's been home, quarantining, and very, introverted and introspective. Now as people creep back out, it's a different world, but it's also people, they don't want to go back to corporate offices. They want to stay at home and work. So, and then they also want a different thing for them. They don't want the same kind of culture that they used to be a part of. They want a different hybrid of it, And I'm also seeing the same for you. It's where, now you're an employee, but there's also a possibility you could become kind of a contractual worker, where you go around to corporations and you are a consultant in that. I'm getting the information now. I don't want to say yoga per se, but I want to say very spiritual mental health kind of direction of their working populations. I don't know how that resonates. I don't know much about the corporate world. I've never worked in the corporation. So I have no idea.
Missing out, kid.
I've heard stories. I don't think so. I'll stay on my paper. But, something like that, where you're still in the corporate world, you have an advantage because you know how it works and you can sell, because corporations have money. I mean, that's how, airlines get money. They sell overpriced tickets to businesses, and corporations, when they pay for the wellness of their company, they spend thousands of dollars, and, you can set your own price. You can say, hey, I'll give you a week workshop on work-life balance and whatever. And then I'll do it for 20,000,
Right.
And because then it's not worth it if it's 15, like you can really put a number out there and it can get paid. So that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see you falling off the deep end and like going, that's it. I'm going barefoot to Thailand and I'll never see anybody again. I'm just going to live among the monkeys in the forest. And anyone who wants some spirituality can come and visit. I don't see you on that far of a spectrum, but I do see like retreat-ish kind of vibe as well. So I don't know if you've been thinking about that.
Yeah, we're currently got a construction going on at our house to build a retreat space at our, beautiful home in Mullumbimby. So you're right on point.
Wow.
Well, what is so interesting is that I'm training to sell retreats.
There you go.
And I just got and I'm going to try to sell Chris's retreat retreat coming up, which we forgot about. I forgot about. I'm like, oh yeah. So I'm not very good yet, but don't write me off. No, I actually have to have like insurance and a license to do it. So that's the problem. But I just got sent one from Mexico. It's like a surf and yoga retreat for a week. It looks gorgeous. It looks awesome. And it kept popping in my mind as I'm talking to you too, as in retreats, surf, yoga, outdoors. And it was all vegan and all this stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm also a yoga teacher. So,
well, there you go.
So you had mentioned innate intuitive access, right? And that's our birthright. How do you coach individuals on one, understanding that that's a thing, right? It's a real thing. Voice that we've heard in their head. And then also to trust it or to even explain where that intelligence or information resides.
Good question.
How do you do that?
Yeah. So I think it's all experience first, knowledge second, because it's quite a hard thing to explain, but everyone's had the experience at some point in their life where they received intuition, they listened and things worked out, versus received intuition, didn't listen, didn't work out. If you can get people to reflect on a time when that happened, then they've got the direct experience already. And so for me, I just share in my own pieces how intuition is received for myself. And my own life experience of, one, for example, was, when my ex-husband proposed and I had this intuitive, no, in my gut, and I didn't really listen. And, things kept coming up and there was little hints from the universe along the way of this isn't right and it. But I chose not to listen all the way. And it's not until I was then separated that I was like, I knew this was going to happen. I've already seen this reality. I just wasn't willing to look at it because I was too afraid. And when I share my own story, people have these moments of, that's happened to me too. So that's one, to get them to realize that we've always had it. And then the second is allowing them to have the experience even through visualization of close your eyes and what's something that you get, what's an image that you get, which is why I love the way you guys work, because intuition is often received through images, through sound, through feeling, depending on what kind of learner you are. But for me, I'm quite visual, so I can teach from a visual perspective, and just to get them, what's a symbol you get? Now talk to that symbol. What does that symbol mean? And you'll often find that there's so much available just in that one symbol. And yeah,
that's really good. And it's beautiful. So So here's I'll give you an example. So somewhere along the lines, you decided to build the retreat space in your house, right? How did you get there? Meaning, one, what was the inspiration, and then how did you decide to make that commitment and just jump in?
Yeah. So, how did I receive it? Funnily enough, my partner's very intuitive as well. And at the same time, we came out of it. We meditate a lot. And, I was like, I'm getting this sense. And he's like, I've been getting it as well. And I think once we accepted that was in the ether, so that we were like, oh, yeah. And then eventually we're just like, let's go for it. And I think it's also been a journey too of me moving to Mullumbimby was also a huge thing. It's like the epicenter of, in Australia, this is the spiritual hub. So you speak to anyone here and it's all, they all say people in Mullumbimby, it's like their home is their retreat center, which is totally true. And I think it just became quite normal as my brother-in-law, and he has everyone that I know has some kind of space in their own home where they run their events. So it wasn't like totally far-fetched.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as well, I've been running a lot of stuff in different venues and always wanting this specific thing of having people outside, having their feet in the ground, but then also having an option to be inside and to be undercover. And I had all these specific things that I wanted that every venue was never going to have. So eventually it was just like, well, you're getting the clients, people are loving what you do. It's time to back yourself and play big. So I keep, for me, leaping into things that feel scary and just backing myself because it's been, I feel like I'm really ready to be here and to share. And I think more than ever that the world is ready for the work that I have, that I'm backing myself and doing what I need to do in order to have the perfect space for what I want to create in this world.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you.
So I'm curious.
Yeah.
About when are you going to have your first one?
Yeah, good question. As soon as it's ready, it's currently under construction. So, but my sense is by the end of this year.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Nice. So I'm a little I'm stuck on the indigenous may not be the right word, but there's like a strong ancestral feeling that both Christina and I had. Where does that sit with you?
Yeah, that piece really, I didn't know where it came from. When you were saying past lives, I was like, oh, tell me more, because it's not in my current life.
Yeah. All right, good. Let's tell her more, Christina.
I'm right on top of that, Rose.
I assume, yes.
Do you know that movie, by the way? Anybody? No. It was an old 80s movie. But yeah, okay. So as you were talking, I drew a shell, this big spiral shell for some reason. I just drew it. I know this is cheesy, but I got this Disney visual, almost like the Little Mermaid, her little shell where her voice is in there. And then it drops, and then it, like the voice goes back into her when it breaks, kind of deal. It's that kind of like shell, but it's like cheesier in my mind. Okay, so the first information I get, I'm getting a message of the power of the woman in the tribe, power of the woman, the power of the woman. And I'm getting 3 lives where you weren't in the same area per se. This is one of them predates any kind of area that we've named, like now they're modern day, like Tahiti or something like that. But back then they didn't have that name. It was just all kind of like the land of Earth, to these people that were crossing the ocean, and you were part of this. So I'm seeing like a little glimpse because I'm trying to figure out who you are within the community. You're not top dog, but you're definitely very crucial part of the community. I'm getting that you are a teacher and a guide in the community. And you just knew a lot about where people sit with Earth at that time. That was like your big thing. It's like you understood, because nature and people were together then. And so, but you understood how life worked. And it was like almost like a school of fish, you know, with all these other animals coexisting. And you knew all of the plants, you knew all of the animals, you knew when you woke up by the position of the stars, the kind of weather and the temperature, like the specific temperature, you could feel it. You would know exactly where the fish were and what kind they're going to be. They're going to be out there. And like, this was almost like common knowledge, but you had like a spidey sense about it. It's pretty amazing. I mean, you couldn't Google that stuff, right? So I'm getting that you just knew about connections of how everything just goes together, how everything corresponds to other things like temperature and weather and the energy of the earth. You would just know the energetic environments needed to predict this and this and this and this within the context of your community and nature. So your second life, sorry, Chris, were you going to say something?
No,
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm getting
second life. It's more, I wouldn't say like medicine woman, but almost like, I know this is cheesy, but almost like community psychologist, but not in what we think. It's more of the support center. So while you weren't the biggest person on, natural remedies, like for physical ailments, it was more of the spiritual side of people. Also a woman. You had a lot of kids in that one. You had like 12 kids in that one. Like 12. Your husband was actually a leader in the community as well in that life. That was a really fun life for you because, I mean, first of all, you were made for that work, but second, you were surrounded by children and your children were all very different and you were very proud of that because you were like, oh, thank goodness I didn't make them all the same because they all can do something different. Like you were really happy about that. And they were all, I mean, it was different back then. So I don't want to say they were all responsible. Everybody was responsible. Like nobody really slacked off because that wasn't the culture of where you were. But so definitely though, your kids really stepped up in the community as well. So you just loved how all this synergy came together. And I feel like that carries on in this life as well. I do want to touch on kids. I feel like some of your kids then, the souls are in your current life. 3. I think 2 of them are definitely, one of them being your partner. Would that make sense?
Yeah.
The other one was like an old friend, like you've had forever, maybe when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
The other one, I don't feel like has cross paths with you so much. It's almost like when you go into your new field is when you'll like, oh, hey there, I know you kind of situation. So that's important. But the other thing is, have you wanted to have kids? Because I'm getting you should have kids.
Yeah. It's funny. I had a reading recently, which is, I see you having children very soon.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
I know that's sensitive, especially for people who've got agendas. And so I was like, how do I bring this up? Because
I'm very excited about having children. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like you'll want a lot of them. I don't feel like you will have a lot of them, but I feel like you want a lot of them. And it's almost like you've you had a lot of them when you were that other life, with the 12 or whatever. That could not even be an accurate count. There could be 13, who knows? But there's something about it where you're like, I made this. Part of me is in here. How cool is that? Like, there's that element to it. So yeah, I'll give Chris a chance to talk, because I've just been blubbering away.
But I love it when you blubber. And especially because you're the one who does the editing, as you so clearly stated on the front end of the podcast.
Hey, this is a no edit podcast except the front end. So
that's right.
Yeah. I mean, this is one take, dear.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about past life. Large, and like this, in this case, it's like a large African female. And oracle is kind of the word that comes to mind. So someone who's like a seer, trust, just larger than life in terms of personality, joy, love, maternal instincts, like someone for the community to come to, and not because it's an elevated role by hierarchically speaking, but because of how you operated in this expression and the ramifications or the connecting, touching people's lives in a very real way. People come to you for great advice. The spiral resonated with me for you because of the connection to nature and how you are able to intuitively today, as Coco, able to look at something in nature, so micro, blow that out to the macro, make it relatable for people, and then bring it back down. Mm. And particularly when it relates to spirals, my experience with spirals has been in the Native American community here, and how they use that as like a wheel of life. So at the center, you're born, first memory, and then all the way through the end. And I can link to that and give you an example of what that looks like. But there's so much meaning in many cultures around spiral, but there's patterns everywhere, right? And because you came into this lifetime with that macro and micro understanding, it allowed for you to be able to get there pretty quickly and use that as a teaching mechanism. So when we're looking at patterns and how the universe operates is no different than how your partner operates, or how your ex-husband operates, or how your parents operate, or how your clients operate. Because while we're all unique, we all very much are the same and have the same, needs and wants and desires. But when you bring things back to nature, and I'm thinking specifically with grownups is how I'm seeing this today. But when you bring things back to nature and something that's very tangible and omnipresent, it allows for people to connect with themselves, and it evokes some sort of feeling. Maybe they can't bring words to it and they can't articulate it, but there's something there that connects in that exchange. So you're imbuing your own energy into that exchange. That opens it up for other people to experience. So I don't feel like it wasn't conscious on the front end, but that's just that's the agreement that you have with yourself at an energetic level, and that you're, like, I guess, making things sacred for people to experience themselves through it with intention. But it could just be you closing your eyes and then handing it over, right? It feels very much like part of who you are. You don't need rituals or like this whole process to be able to make something sacred and have it become a tool for someone else to have their own experience. I don't feel like that makes sense unless you know that it makes sense. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Okay. What I'm making it mean? Would you like to?
Yeah, please.
That a lot of the stuff that I do with this movement, I've created this, it's called Rise Disco, and people come and dance, and we create a lot of ritual around cacao and all this stuff when we were doing it in person. And now I'm running it live online, and I was like, oh, is it going to be the same? And I've had all these doubts. But anyway, I've been running it because a couple of people have asked me to say, like, we really miss it, and this is such a great thing for community. But there's no cacao. My facilitation isn't as much because I'm not there live. I can't feel the energy as much. So I'm facilitating less, but people are having even more profound experiences. So sometimes it's like actually just creating the space and holding the space with your presence is enough.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's been a great teacher for me, because the last session I had someone call me like, I danced with death. I felt the spirit of death come into my room, dance with me. And that was just the most profound thing I've ever had in my life. And I was like, I didn't do anything, And I'm like, well, I did. I created the space and the music and whatever. But sometimes saying less actually allows people to have the experience that they're supposed to have. And there's not much I need to do. So that definitely resonates.
Yeah, it's just showing up. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
But there's also an element of you that gives people physical permission to let go.
Yep.
Yes.
That's a really important piece of the recipe here, is what I'm being told.
Yeah.
For sure. Thank you for that. And that I know. And it's a reminder too of like, if I am showing up as me, it gives everyone permission to do the same.
Yes, because you've been doing it for a long time.
And they're not going to do it even alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Christina, was there anything else around that you got?
So you were talking about the African woman, right?
Yeah. And I was like, and so certainly it came through because what felt important to me was to remind you that this is your nature, right? And you've been doing this for a long time in multiple ways and giving and receiving in multiple roles. But it's like you walked in with a graduate degree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like there's a point for us to tell you about the soul thing, because like the soul life, like the past lives that you've had, I feel like it's that you already have the information because you've already been there.
Trust.
And so it's almost like we're trying to wake you up a little bit inside, but like nudge, nudge, where it like kind of comes to the surface again. And then you're like, oh, and so it just helps your little journey here, So, but I do know when you were talking about the African woman, I drew a cross actually on the paper. I did hold up the paper because when you were talking about the spiral, I'd already drawn that, like the spiral shell. I was like, oh, I've already drawn the spiral. But I drew a cross because I got the vibe that you didn't end very well as the African woman, because the Portuguese came in and tried to like push this Christianity stuff on you. And it kind of like really was not a good thing.
Right.
And I feel like you died because of that invasion. But anyway.
You're Caribbean, right? That's where this all, for me, felt very Caribbean.
Oh, okay. I didn't get a space. I just got Portuguese really strong. The Portuguese came with Christianity and I saw the cross, and then it just all went downhill from there.
Oh, those Portuguese.
Damn Portuguese. I'm just kidding. I love a lot of Portuguese.
Next week.
Modern day ones. Not the historic ones, per se.
It was the Spanish that were bastards.
Well, I mean, if I'm accurate, the Portuguese were right there too. So.
They sure were. Yeah. Well, we all have been. Both perpetrators and victims.
Yes. Do you have any questions? I feel like we're moving away from the past lives. I mean, if you want to still stay here for the sake of fun, that's fine. Or if you have other questions about your lives, that's fine too. But we can go in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
We can go in a different direction. It feels complete.
Do you have any area of your life where you're curious or need a little spiritual guidance from the guides?
Yeah. So one thing that I definitely struggle with is this whole like comparisonitis, like feeling like I'm so clear on my path, but why haven't I made it yet? And I look at other people that have started similar kind of businesses in the wellness space. I'm like, we start at the same time and they're doing so well. So yeah.
Okay. So the first question I got from them is, what has made it?
Yeah. What has made it?
They really want you to answer. I'm waiting.
It came through. It's like, what does made it look like to you? That's what I.
Yeah. So made it to me. Is that a question?
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like, when I put out a course that everyone's like signed up, and I don't have to always push to like, come to this. It's just like, I put it out there and it's received. That would be made it. And even I can't help but, look at the numbers like on Instagram, which is my, it's like, just be yourself. I'm like, I'm just being myself and it ain't working.
So do you, in this comparison game, so you compare followers, right? But at the same time, do you really know if they're turning a profit, or are they just getting people to come? Because that's kind of where the gray area is usually for people in our work, because you're not the only one with this kind of issue. I've already dealt with my own side of this. Right. And it never really, you go into a different kind of mindset about it, but it's still there in other ways. Sorry to tell you that. But yes, so like a lot of people in our space have problems charging when they should be charging, because you can't be I always say this quote, you can't be a lighthouse if you can't keep the lights on. Right? So a lot of people who have all of these things, they're only getting friends and family to come, and they're either not charging, or their friends and family are paying a very minimal. Now, there are ways to, there's like organic traffic, and then there's like running ads on yourself. What's interesting is I'm about to I've been learning a lot about business, especially on like our kind of end. And so I hopefully will be teaching like a beta course, probably like in the spring, about people like us trying to make money. So, but we'll see about that. Anyway, but besides that, I'm getting that first of all, yeah, of course you shouldn't be worried about what they're doing, but at the same time, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Whoever you're watching, they're not like making mega millions. Am I correct? It just seems like they're just doing the work, and that's fine. That's great. It's very much needed, but it's also important for you to make a little something as well. This is all coming in so fragmented. I'm sorry if I'm just rambling here. Chris, you can chime in if you want, because I'm trying to get everything straight here.
I want to go back to made it. Mm-hmm. And the answer is really then in redefining, what does that look like? Purpose was something that came to mind for you earlier today. What's your job? And you didn't have a hard time articulating that. Just go do your job. When I see you with children, I think someone has to pay for that. Parents have money. Parents outsource a lot if they're not fully awake themselves. They recognize that their children have suffered because of the last 1.5 to 2 years, and for the next year, and however long this is going to go on. And I'm just referring to COVID, right? There's many other aspects of suffering or misidentification that exist regardless of where we are on this planet. So when I was thinking about the monetization aspect for you, because visibility seems to be one metric, monetary, remuneration seems to be another, is it had video of you doing your job. And word of mouth in person feels really, really important. And I don't want to answer this for you, but max impact is how many people do you want to affect on a daily basis, either consciously, unconsciously, directly, indirectly. And I feel that when you are able to redefine what that impact looks like and what does success look like, and you find freedom and remove that pressure of having to get the likes, get the visibility, get the traffic, get the SEO down, blah, 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 blah. It's a lot of work that has absolutely nothing to do with your job. So we focus on your job. I feel like the money is not really a problem for you. Like if you have to go make money, you know how to do it, which is get a corporate client, charge them $30,000, go do that. It funds everything else. I feel that children, more specifically the parents who want to pay for this, are a really good avenue towards revenue for you. I don't know if that made sense. And it's an easy thing for me to say, but to not get attached to the outcome. Like, what would happen if you stopped going on Instagram? And by that, I mean, how many of your clients, how many paying clients come through that channel compared to other channels? Maybe LinkedIn's the channel for you. Maybe it's in-person word of mouth, people that show up in your backyard and have these experiences. But it feels like for you, I can look at your LinkedIn profile here. I can look at video of you talking about a movie this morning on Instagram, and I feel your energy and how you carry yourself in this world very, very explicitly. Like it comes through. I can only imagine what that's like in person with you. So get as many people as you possibly can into your freaking house, right? And just serve. Like that is going to make you feel great. And in turn, it's like, wow, I helped this person do that. And that's the greatest form of payment that we can get. But also in releasing the have to do's, right? Or the comparisonitis. I know that you will find a lot of freedom on the other side of that if you just go do your job and play. Right. And these are the things that you do well. And every time we try and compare ourselves to what somebody else is putting out there, it's getting in the way of us just doing our job and why we agreed to come forth and do this.
Mm-hmm.
Do any of these particular channels stand out? Like you get a lot of clients from Instagram or from whatever the kids are using these days?
Yeah, well, I don't really work with kids, actually. I work more with like 20 to 30-year-olds as sort of my niche. And they're the ones that really are open to doing the work, but don't necessarily have the money to do it. So that's been the challenge, which is why I've had the corporate space to be like, well, I'll get that's going to keep the lights on. And then the other is like, that's where I know that I'm supposed to serve, at least for now. I do see myself being a children's entertainer at some point in my lifetime, but I think it'll be when I have kids.
It's totally a televised puppet show.
Yeah. Like I've written a few kids songs, and I can see that creative part in me coming back out when I'm singing to my own children. I'm like, well, may as well just bring the rest of the kids in. But for now, it's that demographic is really speaking to me, and they are coming from Instagram. So that's where I feel like I need to be. I think the piece around just do your job is like I mean, it's so obvious, but it is such a true piece of advice, because it's only when I get in my own way that I'm looking at others, I'm no longer serving anymore. And it's like, that's not doing me any good.
No, Christina knows this, and that's something I've battled for sure. And now I just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it was so freeing just to get to the point where it's like, oh, like I can just go help someone. And that feels like it's more than enough. And when I turned my corporate job into the marketplace, it's like, oh, like all of a sudden work became fun. How did that happen? Right. Yeah. And not only am I having fun, but like 25, 30 other people like found themselves in this organization. It's like, well, what else can I go play with? You have examples of where you do this in your life. It's like, where else can I go play? And more of that is going to help you not just know these things intellectually, but experientially, and then being able to trust that the universe, of course, is going to provide in many, many ways, because it's an abundant place to be, and to be pleasantly surprised at every turn and how it shows up.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. I always, say thank you and more please.
Yes, more please. Exactly. My CEO laughs about that. And she's like, what do you say? Like, more please? I'm like, yep.
Yeah, thank you.
That's good advice.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of that before. I think I might try that. It's great.
Yeah.
So I got the word community for you. Create a community. And what you really need to do is gather people into the community with contact information, like an email or an Instagram. So how you do that is, and through Instagram, when people come to your Instagram, I've never been to your Instagram page. Again, I didn't even know who you were until...
Beautiful. It's a beautiful page.
I'm sure it is. But when they see your photo, do you have a call to action? And that's just a rhetoric question from them. So what is it that you want them to do? Do you have a landing page that you want them to go to? Do you want to give them something for free in exchange for their email? And then do you have like I don't know if Instagram has groups like Facebook does. I don't know. I'm terrible at Instagram. But, having a space where you have a community, and that's where all of your people are, and you do bring value to that community here and there. But that's also where you get clients and people for your retreats and things like that. So I'm seeing kind of that direction. That might be something that might help you out mentally as well, because you're like, oh, wow, I'm building a community. And I feel like that really resonates with you, that word community, because then you feel like you're a part of something, and you're kind of in charge of helping, and you like that role. So then once you focus on that role, everything else is obsolete because you're actually doing the role. And then everything is after that, but in that direction first.
Yes. And teach what it is that you're trying to learn. Teach what it is that you're working on.
Yeah.
What are you reading these days?
What am I reading? I'm reading Rising Strong by Brene Brown. But before that, I was reading, when you say teach what you're working on, is Jen Sincero, You're a Badass at Making Money.
Maybe that's what you do. Yeah. I think that would be very, very impactful in the 20, 30 somethings that are hanging out and following you.
Yeah. Money mindset. It's definitely teach what I need to learn. Oh.
Well, also, and here's an idea for you, because you're talking about everybody's got courses. That's fine. You can have a course on Udemy, or what's the other one? Skillshare. Something like that. I can see that you would have some value for that. And those are just small things. But of course, the aim is, it's a little bit of passive income, but it's to funnel people to your community. Same thing with Instagram. If you wanted to make a course that was only online emails, automatic emails, a 7-day course to whatever you teach, like movement or something like that. And then what you're doing is you're bringing value to them in exchange for their email address. And then you can always be in contact with them and they'll always know who you are. And they'll always be like, and then you can sell things to them, right? Like time with you and things. And I'm really making it simple and they're telling me to, but this is just to kind of get you like thinking, oh, that makes sense. And oh, like it's starting to help you line up things in a row that are a little bit disconnected in what you're learning for yourself. So for example, the 5-day course, email course, give me your email, start the 5-day course. It's the 5-day challenge, guys. Let's do this. We're going to do it again at the end of during the next full moon, something like that, like bring a friend. Let's do it. But the emails are very simple, very short. They could even be videos where you're teaching, but also it's laced with your own experience and stories, because that's also very inspiring and it makes them fall in love with you. And then video is king. I'm getting a recommendation that if you do anything, do video. Don't do just words. Video where it's almost like you're having a personal conversation or a guidance session with somebody through their email, except you've already made it and it's already kind of automated.
Yeah. And again, coming back to your energy, just exuding itself through video or imagery, right? Yes. I mean, words have a vibrational quality for sure. But when, you are the one emoting and bringing life to these words, it's very powerful. Very powerful, you. I don't know why I went full Yoda there, but here we are.
I just got something there like, it's really important you have to say this.
Okay.
I feel like we are coming to the end, but they said definitely what's going to put you like at an advantage, and this can actually ease your mind, is that you're not afraid of video. So heavily go video. Video is king. They want to emphasize that over and over again. So always video your things. And I think with whatever age group you're working with, which is 20s and 30s, everything's video anyway. So there you go.
That feels good. Well, heck, that was a quick hour. That went very fast.
I know. Well, do you have any final questions?
Yeah.
No, that feels great. That piece of advice is really, definitely landing.
Nice. So, Coco, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, the work that you do, how people can find you, all the things.
Yeah. So I define myself as a joy architect and a professional enthusiast. And I am, as well as an empowerment coach, but as a kind of self-proclaimed title, that's what I'm going with. And I run corporate stuff, as I mentioned. So a lot of sales training, emotional intelligence, personal development, working with all different organizations. But my specialty has actually been working with real estate agents, helping them to bring soul back to the sale. So really selling from the heart has been my experience in life. And when we start to sell from that place, unbelievable things happen. So that's part of my corporate area. What I'm really passionate about is movement and getting people out of their heads and into their hearts. So I run dances as part of the Rise Disco movement with my partner, who's a DJ and meditation teacher. So we run these 2-hour experiences of dance, movement, and meditation. And we're now running it online. So you can join us online whilst Australia is still in lockdown. Everyone's struggling a lot. So I've brought this online, and it's been surprisingly just as powerful, if not more, people dancing from their home than dancing in our space, which to me is baffling, but has been great. And then the other thing, actually 2 more things, is one thing is I run women's empowerment programs. So that is 7-week online journeys, helping people move through, ignite their passion, connect with their intuition, and become their most empowered self. And each week we journey with a different theme using everything that I've learned on my journey, be it through using tantra, breath work, yoga, qigong, meditation, mindfulness, mindset hacks. So it's like a very curated program that goes through the chakra system, starting from, let's find out, let's ground, and let's be present, versus going all the way up to finding our intuition, finding our peace, finding our purpose. So it's a very structured 7-week course that, I'm running again in 2 weeks' time, which I'm really excited about. And then I also wrote pick-me-up cards, which are positive, playful, uplifting, empowerment cards. And so this was my COVID project, just to help spread joy at a time when people need it most, with my mantra really being make joy a daily practice.
That's amazing. Send links to us for all that stuff so we can put it in the episode notes for sure. When you mentioned chakra, I have a question for you. Where is home for you?
The heart.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, interestingly, actually, now when you say that, it's like, no, it's the intuition. But it's actually, for me, it's like, if I'm in my heart, then that intuitive place can guide the heart.
Yeah, beautiful.
Or the heart guides intuition, one or the other. But for me, it's just like right here.
Beautiful. That's where you feel it. Nice. Nice. Awesome. Christina, it was a pleasure once again.
Absolutely. Absolute pleasure. And Coco, I just want to say thank you so much. I am so honored to have met you today, and I am definitely going to be stalking your Instagram.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. I've absolutely loved chatting with you and loved all the words of wisdom that you guys have just channeled. It's been really, really helpful.
Well, thanks for sharing your words of wisdom with us. Right? We take care of each other.
Yep. Awesome. Bye for now.
Bye.